I'm Ian, and
I'm Allie.
we're here at South by Southwest with Colin from the Zombies.
Yeah, I'm Colin Blunstone. I'm the lead singer with the Zombies and have been since 1961, which seems unbelievable, but it is actually true.
It's amazing that we have you here today. So definitely thank you for your time.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
And so you're here showcasing your documentary, your new
Yes.
documentary coming out. Can you talk to us about the experience of making a documentary and kind of sharing your experience in the band of the past 60 years that you've been doing it?
Absolutely. The documentary is called Hung Up on a Dream. And I think that some of us were a little reluctant at first to get involved in it, mostly because there's very little film of when we first started, and we weren't quite sure how a documentary could come together with so little historical film of the band. But when we spoke to Robert, the director, his enthusiasm and his knowledge of the band and his knowledge of filmmaking convinced us that it would be, a wonderful adventure to get involved in this project. And we saw it on a big screen for the first time last night, and it was incredible because he had found video footage that we had no idea existed. So we were seeing it for the first time, and we were seeing ourselves when we were 19 years old, probably younger than that as well. And so it was very exciting, and it was quite emotional as well. I think there were a few tears while we were watching it. It was a wonderful experience.
Well, we are so excited to see it. You also have a new album coming out soon, right?
We do. It's called Different Game, and it's coming out on March the 31st. And so far, I have to say, the reactions have been really, really good. It's been a little bit of a labor of love because we started it before the pandemic, and we already decided that we wanted to have we wanted to record in the old-fashioned way. We wanted everyone in the studio at the same time, because there's a different energy if you're playing together in the studio at the same time. A lot of people will record with everyone coming in separately. And we've done that ourselves in the past, but we really wanted everyone together. With the pandemic, that was just impossible. So we actually recorded 2 tracks shortly after we were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Then the pandemic came, and we just had to put everything on ice, really. And then we restarted as travel became easier, and the album was finished quite quickly after that. But we're really, really pleased with the initial reactions on this album, and we're including, I think, 4 songs from the album in our stage set, and they're going down really well. I think in some ways it's quite a skill to put the new songs into a set with a band that's got a history like us. Our first records date back to 1964, and these new songs are absolutely brand new. And yet we still get a really strong reaction from these new songs that nobody knows when we play them alongside the classic hits, which is really heartening for the future, I think.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that your inspirations on the album have changed a bit? I know in previous interviews you said Elvis Presley, the Beatles have always been inspirations. Do you have any new inspirations that inspired this album?
Well, I didn't write most of the songs. Rod wrote most of the songs, and I know he takes his inspirations from all over the place, from classical music to jazz and of course rock and roll. But you're right. I think I speak on behalf of all the band. Our inspirations back in the 60s, when we first wanted to be in a band, mostly came from the greats of rock and roll. So Elvis, Little Richard and Chuck Berry would be the 3 names that come to mind. And then later on, Buddy Holly and Ricky Nelson. And Ricky Nelson plays a special part in my story, because at our very first rehearsal, I was never going to be the lead singer. I was going to be the rhythm guitarist. But as I was putting my guitar away after the first rehearsal, I always sang to myself. I was just singing to myself, singing a Ricky Nelson song called It's Late. And Rod Argent heard me singing this song, and he said, you should be the lead singer. And that was my audition for the band, really. It was so much as chance. When I joined the band, I thought I'd be the rhythm guitarist, standing at the back, looking at my shoes. Certainly not out front. That was not the plan at all. But just because of circumstances, I ended up in a position that, to start with, I wasn't particularly comfortable with. But you get used to it as time goes by. So Ricky Nelson certainly played a big part in my career.
So you mentioned that you were just inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a couple years ago in 2019. I mean, that's the pinnacle of, creating music. That's what you do it for. That's the Super Bowl ring of, being in a band. Can you talk to me about what that was like and kind of the journey of getting there and kind of what that felt like to finally reach your destination?
Absolutely. Well, I would say it's not the reason that we do it for. It's really, we love writing songs. We love to write the best songs we can, to record them in the best way we can, and then to go out and play the best we can. That's an oversimplification, but that's what drives us. That's what energizes us. Not chart success, not financial success. We just want to make really good songs and really good records and really good performances, and that's the honest truth. And that's what's kept us going in this 60-year long career, because in the 60 years we've been playing, there have been times when we got no radio play, no chart success. But if you really just are driven by trying to make good music, that sustains you and keeps you going. The wonderful thing about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is that it is a recognition that your career has been noticed and appreciated, particularly by your peers. There's two different votes. The fans vote, and it was fantastic that we got well over 300,000 votes in the fan vote. I mean, it's just phenomenal. But then your peers, your fellow inductees from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, there's a separate vote for them. And we've been nominated, I think, 4 times before we were inducted, and I'd started to think, we'll never be inducted. And then the magic phone call came, and we were inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and the ceremony took place at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn in front of 17,000 people, and we were inducted with Stevie Nicks and Janet Jackson, Def Leppard, The Cure, Roxy Music and Radiohead. It was a breathtaking show. I'll never ever forget it. And Susanna Hoffs gave the induction speech for us, and she's so eloquent. She gave the most wonderful speech. It was a perfect day. Very, very exciting, something I never expected. I have to remember, when we started this band, we were 15 years old, and we lived in a quiet little suburb. We were just playing for fun. The thought never crossed our mind that 60 years later we would be still playing, let alone being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So it's been an incredible journey. There have been quite a few downs, and there's been a lot of ups. But that's one of the things you have to learn, I think, in any creative industry. You've got to be able to take the disappointments, and it can set you back. But if you can get over it, it makes you stronger in the long run.
Something that we were talking about before the show is the variety of fans that you have, like, that spans through generations. What do you think about your music in particular appeals to everybody, basically? Through time, it resonates with people.
Well, it's an interesting thought. I mean, to a large extent, I'm not sure I do really understand a lot about the Zombies' career, and that's one aspect that really fascinates me. Wherever we play, there'll be a complete cross-section of ages, from teenagers to people who have been fans since we very first started. And I can only think that I think a lot of the classic songs from the 60s, they still have a freshness. They're still as relevant today as they were when they were very first recorded, and a lot of that's down to the writers in the band, Rod Argent and Chris White. I still enjoy singing those songs after all these years. That I still get a thrill out of singing those classic songs. So that's part of it. And I think maybe the other thing is going back to what I was saying before, that we're writing and recording for real. But we're not writing and recording to become famous or to become rich. We're really writing from the heart, and that might sound a bit corny, but that's what we're doing, and hopefully that comes over to the public, and that's why we have a cross-section of people in our concerts that are growing. I was always told that classic rock bands, you'll gradually decline, your audiences will decline, but that hasn't happened with us. Our audiences are getting bigger and bigger. It's great. I don't fully understand why, but I'm not going to question it. It's extraordinary, really. I never expected this to be happening at this time in my life. We always talk about this as the autumn of my career, and I never expected this to be happening. So it's a big surprise, but it's a wonderful surprise.
Thank you so much, Colin Blunstone of the Zombies, and we're looking forward to the documentary as well as the album. The album releases later this month on the 31st, different game, and the documentary releases when?
I'm not too sure about that. Usually when it plays at a festival, that is to try and get as wide a release as you can. The thing is, first of all, to get it played at festivals, and I know it's going to be played at 4 or 5 different festivals, but this is South by Southwest was the premiere of the whole was the first showing of the documentary last night. So fingers crossed for the documentary, and thanks so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much as well. So.